Hello Year 11 and welcome to your Wednesday lesson. And as I said to you on Monday, it's going to be all about angels and Muslim beliefs about angels today. I'm really looking forward to going through this with you. The information you need is going to be the stuff that has a number 13 on it. Unlucky for some, but it's lesson 13 nevertheless. So get your stuff out that says 13 on it and we can get going with this lesson. So, drawing images of angels is really interesting in Islam. We've discussed very briefly before now that Muslims are absolutely not okay with images of Muhammad or images of Allah being drawn. And we've talked about the reasons for that being about the perfection of Allah and how wonderful and perfect human Muhammad was, and that any image of them would be an offence. Angels is an interesting one because Muslims are really split on it. There are plenty of scholarly documents, like written by Muslims that are sort of academics, that have images of angels in, and there's an awful lot of work about the perception of angels in Islam. And there's also information that seems to suggest that if there are images such as of angels, that angels won't visit the property in which they are. So if you don't want to do some of these tasks that involve drawing images, that is absolutely fine. You could just do bullet points instead. So for some of you, that might be about not wanting to break the rule of drawing images. And for some of you, it might just be because, like me, you're an absolutely terrible drawer and a bullet point is far less stressful. So either way, there are a couple of tasks in here that if you want to do them a different way, you absolutely can. But let's start here. You have on your page some information, some quotes from the Quran about angels. So could you either draw me or bullet point for me what angels appear to be like in Islam? Pause the video here and have a read of them and do that for me. So, there are plenty of angels in Islam, some with specific names, some without, and we are going to find out who they are and what they do. So that is your title for today, and the date is the 3rd of February. Let's get them written down. You can see at the bottom where the keywords are. The Arabic word for angels is malaka. Again, it's Arabic, so my pronunciation will be absolutely shocking. And the words after that are all names of different angels. And hopefully by the end of the lesson, we'll know who they are. We can explain what they do, and we can evaluate how important they might be for Muslims in living their daily lives. So you've got some QR codes, and if you have an iPhone or an Android phone, you should just be able to turn your camera on and hold it over one of the QR codes, and it should read the information. Now, based on that information, I would like you to answer these 9 questions. And you can do them in any order you want. So if you scan one QR code and it tells you the answer to number 7, feel free to answer number 7 first, absolutely fine. But you need to work through and answer all 9 of those answers. You need to write them in your book, either full sentences or write the question and write the answer underneath it, completely up to you. Pause here and do that for me. So I mentioned at the start of the lesson that there are lots of different angels, and some of them have specific things they are in charge of. They have specific jobs. Now I'd like you to imagine just for a second that you were a god and you had this gang of angels who were like your helpers. What kind of things would you want your angels to be in charge of? Are you going to have them being in charge of making sure people are born? Are you going to be making sure that people go to heaven and hell? Are you going to have them being in charge of the weather? Are you going to have them being in charge of making sure that crops grow healthily? What kind of things do you think angels should be in charge of? It's really just a point to ponder. It's nice to sometimes imagine that you're a god, I guess. These are 10 of the responsibilities that some of the specific angels in Islam have. Now, there are more angels than this, and there are some angels that don't have specific responsibilities, but these are 10 of my favourites. So you'll have to forgive my pronunciation again. We've got Malik, and he is the guardian of Jahannam, which is basically hell. We'll come on to hell a little bit later in this unit. And I guess he's not a very nice angel to see, because if you see him, you know you're going to hell. Then there is Ridwan, and he is the guardian of paradise or heaven. So I imagine when you see him, you're pretty chuffed because you know you're going to go to heaven. Then there's Jibril, and he is in charge of making sure that the messages from Allah get to the prophets. So we talked about prophets a couple of weeks ago. We talked about various prophets that there had been. Well, Jibril is the one who got the message to them. Then we've got Nakir, and he has to basically question the dead once they're dead about like their lives and the things they've done and who they believe in and things like that. Then we've got Israfil, and he, best job in the world, he's just waiting. He's going to blow a trumpet. So he's going to blow it on the day that the universe ends, and then he's going to blow it on the day when everybody is resurrected to face Judgment Day. I remember a couple of years ago a student saying he must be like Jibril's cousin or brother or something. Like Jibril got a really good job and then managed to wangle his brother a bit of a rubbish job. And he just sort of stood there waiting to blow his trumpet. But I suppose it's a really key role because he will be kind of like bringing in the end of the world and bringing in Judgment Day. So that's a kind of key role. Then there's Israel, and he's the angel of death. So he is, I suppose you don't want to see him because he is bringing on death for people. Munkar, he questions people again. So maybe him and Nakir hang out. And then we've got Rakib and Atid, and they sit on a man's right and left shoulder. And Rakib writes literally in a book all of the good stuff that a person has done. And Atid sits on the other shoulder and writes down all of the wrong things that they've done. And they are going to be quite key because when we hear about heaven and hell, they're going to come back into the mix as well. And then we've got Mikhail here, and Mikhail he's kind of like the mundane angel. He has to make sure that man is able to live, that there's rain, that there's crops and stuff like that. So they are 10 angels in Islam. And what I'd like you to do in your books is rank them from the one you think is probably the most important for a Muslim to the one that you think is the least important for a Muslim. Now, there is no right or wrong answer here because for Muslims, they're all significant. They all hold their own kind of roles and therefore they're all important. But I just want to see from your perspective, which of these do you think is the most significant? And working your way down to which is the least significant. And as you rank them, if you can just summarize what each of them does so that we can remember, that's fantastic. Now, realistically, we are not going to remember all 10 of these, their names and exactly what they do. But if you can remember a few of them, probably the ones that you think are the most important, that's going to be the best bet for you. So rank them 1 to 10, 10 to 1, whatever. 10 being the one you think is the most important and 1 being the one you think is the least important, in your opinion. Final task then, guys. At the start of the lesson, you either drew me a picture or you did some bullet points of what the Quran quotes that we saw suggested about angels. And all I want you to do is think about, from today's lesson, what you could add to that. Those amongst us that are heading for a 9, how does what you've learned about Muslim beliefs about angel differ from or similar to what Christians believe about angels that you know of? So, for example, I know that when Mary's pregnant, it's an angel called Gabriel who comes down to tell her what's going on. Gabriel sounds a bit like, I don't know, Jibril, who's also in charge of sending messages down to people. What? So see if you can see any similarities between Christian beliefs about angels or big differences as well. Okay, that is it. Nothing to submit this week because you already submitted to me on Monday. Look after yourselves and I will see you soon. Bye bye.